Once upon a time, there was a young woman, and her name was Emma, and she lived in a very large and beautiful house that looked more like a grand palace than a normal home. And this house was filled with the finest furniture, shiny jewels, soft carpets, and decorations that came from the most expensive shops. And because of all this, her life looked perfect from the outside. Her parents were extremely rich, and because they had more money than they could ever use, they always gave Emma everything that she wanted. And if she asked for clothes, they bought her the most elegant dresses. And if she wanted jewelry, they placed the most sparkling diamonds in her hands. And if she wanted to travel, they arranged the most luxurious trips. And because of this treatment, she grew up spoiled, entitled, and she started to believe that the whole world should always give her what she demanded without her working for it. Emma herself was very beautiful, with her long golden hair that shined in the sunlight and her deep blue eyes that could catch anyone's attention. And she knew how attractive she was, and she often used her beauty, her charm, and her soft voice to get everything that she wished for, and most people around her always admired her. Her days were always filled with shopping in expensive stores, walking into boutiques where the best designers waited for her. And she often attended big parties where music played, food was served, and where she always stood in the center receiving endless attention from people who only wanted to be close to her beauty and her money. But even with all this attention, deep inside her heart she felt empty, because no matter how many dresses she wore, or how many jewels she owned, or how many people praised her, nothing could take away the loneliness that she quietly carried inside her soul. One day, while she was visiting an exclusive shop, she noticed a young man standing behind the counter, and his name was Lucas. And he looked very different from the men she usually met at her parties, because Lucas did not show excitement when she walked in, and he did not look impressed by her beautiful dress or her expensive jewelry. And he spoke to her with calmness and politeness, but without any sign that her charm could control him. And this unusual reaction made Emma very curious about him. She began to think of ways to get his attention, and she decided to wear her most elegant dresses whenever she visited the shop. And she smiled at him in a sweet way, and she tried to flirt with him using her beauty and charm. But Lucas never behaved like the others, because he stayed professional, polite, and kind, yet always respectful and distant, and he never gave in to her games. And this made Emma even more determined to win him, because she could not understand how a man could ignore the power of her beauty. After some time, Emma decided to invite Lucas to one of her grand and extravagant parties, the kind where music played all night and where everyone in the city wanted to be seen. And to her surprise, Lucas accepted the invitation. But when the evening came, Lucas did not arrive alone, because beside him was a young woman, and her name was Sophie. Emma was shocked for a moment, because she had expected Lucas to come alone and perhaps pay attention to her. But instead, Sophie stood by him. And Sophie was naturally beautiful, not because of expensive clothes, but because her face glowed with kindness. Her smile was gentle, and her voice was filled with warmth. And she showed compassion to everyone she met, whether rich or poor. And Emma quickly noticed that Sophie was everything she herself was not. As the party continued, Emma observed Lucas and Sophie together, and she saw the way they looked at each other with respect, how they spoke with trust, how their laughter was honest, and how their hands held not for show, but for love and for the very first time in her life. Emma felt a strong pain of envy, not because of money, not because of clothes, not because of jewels, but because she saw in them something she had never owned: true love, real happiness, and a deep connection of the heart. This moment began to change something inside her heart, and in the days that followed, she thought again and again about what she had seen, and she started to realize that all her wealth, her clothes, her jewels, and her endless parties had only given her emptiness, and that her lifestyle had left her lonely and without meaning. And slowly she began to feel a strong desire to change her life. So she started to volunteer in places where people needed help, and she began to spend her time helping others, giving her energy to good causes, and learning how to connect with people not through money, but through kindness. And while she was volunteering one evening, Lucas saw her again, and he noticed the new light in her actions, and he understood that she was truly trying to change. So he gently introduced her to more meaningful activities, guiding her towards a deeper purpose. As weeks and months passed, something even more surprising happened, because Emma and Sophie, who were once very different, started to talk, and they discovered that they could share experiences and stories, and slowly they became friends, respecting each other's differences and learning from one another, and this friendship helped Emma grow even more. Gradually, Emma let go of her spoiled habits, her selfish thoughts, and her shallow desires, and she embraced a life filled with honesty, compassion, and kindness. And she finally learned that true happiness does not come from material wealth, from expensive jewels, or from short romances, but from real love, genuine connections, and living a life of purpose. Her journey from a spoiled and shallow girl into a kind, authentic, and fulfilled woman became a story that inspired many people in the shining city of Starlight. And people began to look at her not for her wealth, but for her transformation. And her story showed everyone that it is never too late to change, never too late to grow, and never too late to find true happiness.